Hey, Soca lovers, welcome back to the BK Rant and Rave podcast. I'm your host, DysChick, and I'm here today with Garth Voisin, creator of the Dear Men Project and a men's advocate. I want to welcome you to the podcast. We're going to get into it today with just cultural identity and men's advocacy and really getting into the mental health and how we can support our men. So, welcome to the podcast, Garth.
Hey, thank you for having me. This is going to be very exciting. I hope you guys are ready.
So now you set them up.
No, this is what it is. We have to find ways to not just educate, but to also get people in. Have them listening. I think because it's one of those things we have to deal with, and one of the roadblocks that we have is that people don't pay attention. So let's make it a little bit interesting, and I'm ready whenever you are.
Yeah. Well, first, let's give them a little bit of background about the Dear Men Project, about you, and how you got involved in this in the first place. If there was anything that you saw that you were like, you know what, I need to become a men's advocate because I'm seeing things that I think need addressing.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all men's advocates in some way or some form. But for me, what happened is there was a situation where I found myself isolated, and it was really stressful, and I had to find ways to kind of cope with it. But then I was also making a lot of notes in that process, like who reached out to me, who was paying attention to what was going on. And I always give my son credit because that was a time that I was actually building a website for the Diamond Project, which we no longer have. But and my son was messaging me like almost every day, just saying, "Hey, Dad, how you doing?" And at the end of it, I told him how much I appreciated it because I realized that most people who would have known me from before, which would have been from 2009, being on social media, um, and have seen different things I've done, they always feel like, yeah, he's good. So even when I was going through my process, most people would, I mean, not doing it on purpose, but most people would be like, yeah, well, he always good, or you don't know where he is today. He always traveling, he always doing these things. And that time was one of the times that was very, very stressful, but nobody reached out, or a few people reached out, right? And it made me think, like, how many other men go through that type of stress and that type of isolation? How many men are conditioned with the whole isolation, the price you pay for success narrative? And what do we do about it? So my son was actually the catalyst because he was checking on me, and he wasn't checking on me just like random checkups. He's like, hey, I'm checking on you almost every day to see how you're going because I know the situation and how you're feeling, just making sure that you're good. And I wanted other men to understand that there are a lot more people that relate to men when they go through these issues, and maybe they just need to find different ways to not just relate, but also be able to reach out and to be able to help support.
Yeah, definitely. I want to get into a little more of the isolation idea because you put me onto that with
Mm.
just this idea of the way to be successful is to be isolated and kind of just cut yourself off from other people. I don't know that I necessarily think that that's a healthy mindset. How do you feel about that? And where do you think that comes from?
I think isolation, being the price you pay for success, has some merit to it, right? There's some merit. It comes like something I was listening to where we talk about if you're an authentic person, you have fewer friends because most people they just kind of go wherever the flow is, right? Um, so it's not like it doesn't have merit to it. It's just that we continue to make men think or condition men to think that it's either black or white and there's no gray. There's a time for isolation because you're going to be doing stuff not in a big group anymore because now you have to remove yourself from the distractions and find people that are aligned. But what we've taught our men is that isolation is it. So you got to be by yourself. But then what about things like brotherhood? What about things like collaborations? What about things like, are you going to be a team player and have a team that wins, or are you going to try to win by yourself against a team? Because if it's competition, you're competing every single day with other people in groups, right? If that's what you want to look at competition as. So when we talk about isolation, you put in men in a place where the only advice they get is from themselves. So if they're going through depression and anxiety, what kind of advice are you going to give yourself, right? They're not much self-motivated men or people in general. So a lot of people are looking for inspiration, looking for motivation. How do you find that when you're by yourself? And this is why I was saying to you that this narrative that we have, we're thinking it's doing good and building strong men, but okay, you may get them isolated, but then what? Where's the direction? Like, what's after the isolation? So I think it has merit to it. I think there are times for it, but I just don't think we're explaining to men that it's not either black or white. There's a gray area where there's going to be a time, but brotherhood is one of the things we should be expanding more on instead of just this competition and isolation.
Yeah, especially, I mean, we're talking mainly to a Caribbean community right now. There's a lot of collaboration in things, but I do get the sense that there's also a lot of competition. And so it's, if I work with you, then I didn't really do it on my own and I want to be self-made. And it's sort of that pride that
Yeah.
goeth before the fall. But I think there's too much of the do it yourself, do it by yourself, you won your own race kind of thing. How do you
Yeah.
now foster that sense of community, especially among men who are used to that, right? Like, I got to do it myself, just keep my head down and keep pushing through. How do you get them to kind of look up and foster community and get that brotherhood and kind of reach out for those connections?
Well, some men won't agree with what I'm about to say, but we tend to follow some of the things in the Caribbean that are not always 100% positive or 100% workable for us. And we look at the dress, we look at the cars that people drive, we look at jewelry, we look at all these other things. But if you look at truly successful people, right, successful men, they actually have groups that support one another, right? They're the ones who you're buying a product from their websites and you don't even know that they own the website. Those are those people. But we somehow, because we've been fed so much of just the trends and the jewelry and that kind of stuff, we follow that so easily. So now it's harder for us to say, hey, and then when we look around, we don't see much people who are building as groups. We don't. We always see the guy that's a one-off. Hey, I started this business by myself and it was such a struggle. And I think that narrative has been fed to us as Caribbean men because the trends that we see are the ones that we're sent or we're shown. And we're hidden for the most part. I mean, not as much now because of social media. We're hidden from the most part from the groups of brothers that work together, from the groups that collaborate to make the billion-dollar company, right? And my advice to men when I talk to them is simply that, hey, instead of looking at it as I need to do this by myself, right? There was this big saying, there's no I in team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Start looking and start researching, start Googling different things that you could actually find people that have built something together. And quick story, I remember years ago, I had a bunch of us who used to play football together. And one of my ideas in my head was to have this cul-de-sac where we all had houses. We had one huge garage and a bunch of cars. Now, this is the first time I'm telling anybody this except the people who I told it to, right? But that was my idea. My idea was, it was all of us. We were really good together. We understood each other. I'm like, hey, let's build a business. Let's do whatever. And let's have this cul-de-sac or this roundabout where this dead end, where we have houses there. And there's this big garage where there's all these cars because we made this big business. Well, it never happened, right? Because you found in between there would have been competition and people didn't understand. But it's out there. It's out there. And I think from the conversations I have with men now, they're seeing how hard it is to do it on your own and to not have this support. But then the other challenge that they face is, where do I look? Like, where do I look for the support? Especially when a man, especially Caribbean men who have not been so used to getting support. It's like you tell them to look for something that they're not familiar with. I guess our job would be to try and guide them to those type of things, like support groups, creating a brotherhood. I always tell my son, if you want to school with some guys that were good, keep that relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that. Absolutely. Also, there's a different way that men tend to commune. It's always, they call it like there has to be a third thing. Like, we're going to meet up to watch a game. We're going to meet up to do a thing, to look at something else. I've literally seen men sitting side by side at a sports bar watching the TV, and they're like, oh, yeah, I just hung out with him yesterday. I'm like, you didn't talk to this person the whole time you were there. How is that hanging out? Maybe
Yeah.
there just need to be like different ways of engaging with each other, as opposed to just, we're doing the third thing. We're watching a game. We're going to a thing. Let's just sit and chat and talk and catch up. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, it is. But it's also part of the issue, right? And I always say that the solution is inside of the problem. And it's part of the issue because we generalize and we treat everything so generic when it comes to our men. Like you just said, it's different for them. It's different for us. We look at stuff differently. Sometimes I have to process something. Like I have to literally process it. And sometimes it has to be a little bit more logical than what you said to me, or it has to make sense to me. It has to be of value to me. So if we're going to treat that just as anybody else would respond if I said this to them or I'd said that to them, then we're not going to get a response that we want. And one of the things that we've tried to do, even with trying to get the conversation started, is even with our young men as well. Like, young men are not showing up to programs and workshops. Okay, well, that's the problem. So what's the solution? Well, let's find things that appeal to them so that they will show up. It's not just like, well, the girls did this workshop and we had so many girls that came out. Well, yeah, and that's awesome, and I'm always happy to see it. But if you do the workshop and the boys don't show up, are we just going to give up on that? So it's the same thing with our Caribbean men. We have to find different ways to appeal to them. I remember in talking to somebody from Tobago, and she had this idea where they did like a bonfire, right? And maybe somebody could steal the idea. It really mattered to me like that. But they had a bonfire, and the guys and girls showed up, right? And the guys, when they were leaving, they were like, hey, we have to do this again. Because they had fun. They just had fun. They were just out there by the bonfire, by the beach. They had fun. And when she said that, so many men came to her and they talked to her about it, I said, well, let's have one. Let's do one. But let's not just do it for the men. I think because that also, you're going to get disappointed. Because if you do it for the men, this is kind of leading into something else, and I apologize in advance. But if you do it just for the men are not going to show up because it has to have value, right? It has to appeal to them. So if they said, I really love the fact that we had this with these people here, when we do a one-off for men by itself, nobody shows up. And then people are so confused, like, why did nobody show up? I'm like, well, they didn't show up because you didn't replicate what you just did. You did something totally different that now the men are like, so I have to be with them by myself? I have to talk about how I feel to another dude who might, again, he's my competition, right? I'm competing with him anyhow because I have to have the better car. I have to have the better jewelry. I have to have more partners, right? I have to have people, higher crypto wallet, but Bitcoin, whatever. And when I explained it to her, she understood. You understand? So it has to be things that appeal to men differently. And it has to be where we see the issue, we come up with a solution because it's inside of the problem and the issue. And we deal with it a little bit differently. We can't just think, well, this works for everybody, because then why are we saying that we have men and women? Then we could just say we have human beings. There's a human being, brother.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah. Well, you were saying you were going to go off on a tangent because you were talking about the value. Go off on the tangent.
Yeah. I think it's because we create stuff for men, and when they don't show up, we just give up. So it's like that's how we measure it. Okay, we create it, they don't show up, we give up. And I have to keep having the same conversation with women as well. And I say, hey, the reason why the men are not showing up, if you have an idea and it's a program, at some point in time, it's going to be valuable to these men, because these men are also going through a lot of other things in their lives. So if I see something and I see, I'm not sure about that today, but then the next month I see another one come up and I'm like, oh, this is kind of okay. They have another one. And then maybe I had a game on Saturday. Maybe I had a game on Sunday. And then the third time it comes up, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to call my boy. We need to go to this, because they actually care. But the consistency shows that they care. Right? Because if you see any kind of empowerment workshop for women, it's happening everywhere. But with men, they don't see it, so they feel as though there's nothing for them. Right? So they don't show up the first time, or you get 2 or 3 men that show up and they're like, oh, this was great. Do they spread the word? Do they go on their socials and talk about how good the event was? No. But if you had an event for women, oh my God, it was the best thing ever. She spoke to me. Right?
Accurate.
But with men, they just go about their business, hoping that somebody calls them and say, hey, we have another one coming up. And then if you have 3 men in that workshop or that event, they're not having another one. Because as far as whoever created it, they're thinking it's not worth it. You understand? Yeah. That's because we're trying to fill the stadium up in another room.
Makes sense.
So that was my tangent.
That's a good tangent. What are you talking about? We're trying to come up with a solution to get men to open up and really. What I'm concerned about is there are so many men who, you hear about this loneliness epidemic, etc. And there are just so many men who I don't know if they know how to create their own bonds within their friend groups. The way that men talk to each other or communicate or don't communicate, how are you actually building real deep friendships and connections so that someone goes, you know what? Let me check on him. Let me call him. You know what? He told me last week, not 3 months ago, that he wasn't doing well. Let me call him up and let me talk to him.
That's so it's so funny. Well, not funny, but you know what I mean. Um, it's good that you're saying that because I think what we do sometimes when we approach anything that has to do with men and men's mental health and even men's fitness, right, and health and wellness, is we go so broad and so deep that we don't do step by step.
Hmm.
So we're saying, well, how does he make a connection and how does he go so deep and tell his boy how he feels? And well, no, he's not gonna get there automatically, right? It's not. Again, we just spoke about it. It's not like a woman's group who the first time they meet, they're so open to have a conversation, and then they're all invested. With men, it's going to be a little bit different. Again, you're coming in there where I'm looking at you're my competition. You're not my collaborator yet. You're a competition, right? And you wouldn't believe that most men who have friends now, as they get
Hmm.
older, have had friends when they were young and they were competing against each other. Those were their good friends. But like, yeah, we used to play football together. Man, I couldn't stand that dude. 10, 15 years after, they're good friends because it took some time to build, to build, to build, to build, to build for them to get to that place that we're thinking about. So this is not going to happen overnight, but it's never going to happen if we continue to just jump from step 1 to step 10,
Hmm.
thinking step 10 is what the solution is. Because the solution is being connected. The solution is that you pick up the phone and call your friend and see how he's doing. I promote that all the time. I'm like, hey, check on your strong friends. It could be Man Crush Monday that no longer exists. I go, hey, check on your strong friends.
Yeah.
Just for men to be reminded that, hey, yes, he may look like he has it figured out, but let's not wait until he unalives himself to say he was under so much pressure, you
Hmm.
know? And then the
Yeah.
opposite side of that is something that I talk about now and I've been talking about is that, we sometimes, as men, we say nobody cares, right? And we say nobody cares with authority. Nobody cares about us men. And I beg to differ.
Yeah.
I've had workshops with women, just for women only, where we talk about issues with men and how to support men. I've had workshops with men where we went ATV riding as part of our thing to do just to get them out of the mindset of you're getting help. It wasn't help, it was you're getting camaraderie. Let's go
Hmm.
there, let's do that, and then we could talk if you want to, which they did. My beg to differ part comes where the men who are saying nobody cares about me, you're not wrong. You are right. Nobody cares about you, and that's conditioning. Choice, however, is that nobody cares about you in your environment that you're in. So your choice, if you choose to, is to find another environment where people care about you. You're not stuck. And this really it has resonated with me so much in just doing this because I see so many men saying the same thing, and I have to ask them, I'm like, you have a choice. Do you understand that you have a choice to choose better friends,
Mm.
to choose a better partner, to choose a better environment? You have a choice. So when you come out and you say it with authority, you're not wrong for saying that nobody cares about you. Or maybe nobody cares about you where you're at.
Hmm.
You
That
understand?
is, yeah, yeah. I like the idea of doing things where you're doing the camaraderie. So you do have the third thing, like the ATV riding, something they'll be interested in, but
The
then
third thing is the
naturally
thing.
progress the conversation.
The third thing is the thing. All falls, some type of cards, ATV riding, bike riding, going to the beach, football. You see, we condition our boys to be either part of a team or a
Hmm.
loner. And what happens is that as our boys get older, we don't encourage team. We encourage isolation now. But that's the price you pay as a man. You got to go out there and figure it out on your own. There's no blueprint, there's no nothing, which is weird to me. But that's the idea. So what happens is that when we say ATV ride and these type of things, it brings them back to boyhood.
Mm.
So it brings them back to a place where they understood what it meant to have a good friend or a best friend, or walk up the street from football after like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night. I know you have to get home early because they're looking for you. We bring them back. So it's a psychological reversal of bringing them back to a part where they did enjoy life, where they didn't have all the responsibilities. But in doing so, by bringing them back, you also bring down their walls, and you increase, and I don't like using the word as much anymore, their vulnerability to be open. And now they want to have a conversation. Now, when I talk to them after the ATV ride or after we do some events, they're like, dude, I can't get her to cook nothing for me. We're eating pizza all day. And I'm like, okay, why don't you try to find somebody to cook for you? Like, why don't you find somebody who provides food and like get like a chef or whatever? Or if not, just do it for yourself. Like, YouTube it. I don't know. And you bring them back to a place where they understood what that meant, right? You know, and we're not doing that. We're just expecting them to now just keep going. And be like, let's create a workshop. And we're going to have 8 men sit in a circle. It's like saying, hi, I'm Garth, I'm an alcoholic. Nobody wants to do that. You have to get to the point where it's that bad. So I'm saying, instead of us getting to the point where it's that bad, let's find things that appeal to them in a place where they want to be a part of this. Like, they want to go ride a ATV. Like, we had a ride, and I always give this example. We did a ride, and it was pouring rain in the jungle, like literally in the bush. And on the ride, it was a line of us going through this trail, and it was a straight run. So it was a straight run. We all on our ATVs. I made sure everybody had separate ones. I didn't want them to be coupled up. It was separate ATVs. Everybody had their own ride. And the rain started to fall. And I mean rain falling like white rain, where you could hardly even see as far as
wow.
And these men were screaming like little boys. You see, I didn't say little girls. They're screaming like little boys, where there was enjoyment in their voice. They loved the fact that they were riding in the rain. And I asked one question when we came back. I said, when was the last time you just ran out in the rain in the street?
They're like, no, I'm going to look like a madman if I do that.
Well, I do it all the time, because once I'm in Trinidad, and rains, I'm in the road. I want to know. Because before, that was things that you would do. So when they experienced that and they experienced the rain, it reminded them of when they were a child. And then all of the other things, the titles, the job titles, the dad, the roles, all those things went away for a split second. And then when we came back to the camp, to the ground, we had a conversation, and it was one of the most open conversations, because now they felt comfortable. They felt like they didn't have to be the business owner or to be this title or that title. They could just be themselves. That's where the conversation started. And I always tell companies the same thing. They have to invest in things like that, because that's what's going to get your men to be better mentally, which will make them more productive, if you even think about how that works. Right?
Yeah. No, I love that. Plus, you get them out of their environment. You get them doing something else. Maybe they're learning. Maybe they've never been on an ATV before.
Why would I want to go into a meeting if I work all day?
Exactly. Now you're sitting again with a bunch of men having a conversation. It's like,
the solution is inside of the problem. You understand? And it may be similar or a good enough analogy. But when I used to run gyms, I used to visit my managers and take them out of the club. Because when I visit them, they're there all day. So, hey, let's go grab something to eat. Even if it was just something simple, or even if it was a walk down like maybe a block down by a coffee place or something. And we sat there, and it took them out of that environment that they were in, and now they could just have a conversation. And I found out so much more there than if I was to just go visit the club and just be inside of the club.
Yeah.
You know, but it's surprising to me that when we share stuff like this, people are not more eager to gravitate towards these solutions. And it makes me think that sometimes I think, and this is again another controversial one, I think sometimes they feel better, or they are better off when the men have issues. Because you can't tell me that our conversation here is so foreign.
Right.
Because what it did, it just took us to go a little bit deeper in the conversation to figure out the solution, right? So like, okay, if we said we'll try this next week, and we did it at a company, it would work. It may not work for everybody, but it may work for some people, and isn't that the goal? The goal is to affect some.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So this is why I say sometimes, and I say it openly, because I like when they come at me. I feel as though sometimes they feel better when men have issues, or they're in a better spot looking and saying, yeah, that's why these things don't happen, because you guys have issues, or they just don't have the time, or they don't take the time to go past surface level.
Right.
So let's just say, I tried it, but to say, hey, we did this, it's a difference.
And it takes that kind of investment in the goal for anything.
For anything.
For anything. If you want to see it eventually work, you have to be consistent, keep putting in the work, keep putting in the effort. So that makes total sense. Yeah. I'm surprised more places aren't, open to you coming and speaking and talking about this and helping them not just have a workshop, but really implement things through their HR, through their teams, through their, team building with managers, just so that you create that kind of space and it's just normalized.
Well, I'll tell you something. 2026 and above and beyond is going to be that. There's going to be a lot more push, where you're going to see a lot more of that happening. A lot more of banging on doors and opening windows if the door's closed, because it's necessary, right? If you look at, I was reading something recently, and they were saying, like men don't have friends anymore. Men don't have friends anymore, and that leads to depression and loneliness. When you look at the suicide rates versus women, it's 5-1. In terms of that. And they say women attempt, men complete. So if you're saying that I spend most of my time when I'm young at school, and when I'm an adult at work, why would you not want to invest in all those men at your job? And I'm not one of those people that likes to take a no for an answer, right? And if I do, I just pivot and adjust. So it's going to be a lot more adjusting. But if you see, there's a narrative behind it, because I think this has worked in the past, right? And you have a lot of controversial things in this one, but this is going to be good. So it has worked in the past because this is what they expect. They expect you to try. They expect you to fail because nobody responds to you. They expect you to give up. And when you give up, they say, see, I told you so. I told you these men didn't care about themselves. Or I told you that wasn't going to work, right? So they're waiting. They're waiting for you to say, "Oh my God, I give up." They're waiting for that. I'm telling you, that's okay. That could be the only reason that I have. And if anybody listening to this hears and thinks about something else, they can message me if they want to. I'm easily accessible, right? Because you cannot tell me that okay. One of the responses has been, "It's not in our budget," right? No. Go with me here. So again, I'm saying you might be right. You might be right. You might be right that it is not in your budget. So therefore, the next time that you're planning your budget, guess what you could do?
Exactly.
Allocate some resources to put it in your budget, so that you can now solve something that is a social initiative, because it's a social issue, because you have all these things happening now. Or offenders are men, right? Or the people that are committing suicide, unaliving themselves, they're men, mainly men. Domestic violence, men. Kidnapping, men. Crime, men. Reoffenders and offenders in general, mainly men. So if that's not a social issue and needs a social initiative by a company, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
So,
especially if you're thinking in terms of productivity, because men get depressed at work. Men feel stuck in their roles. They feel like they're not getting ahead, or they're, married and they're like, I don't know if this is enough to provide for my family, or whatever the case is. So why not address that issue for them? That would make them more productive, to feel like they're supported at a company.
Sounds very simple, doesn't it?
I think so. I'm also a little spoiled because I used to be co-chair of an ERG, employee resource group, where I would allocate funds for different things that I heard it's not in the budget. And I'm like, well, then let's just move this over here. And now it's in the budget. So budgets.
Well, no, and after dealing with a lot of people in that space, I have to give them some credit, because after conversations I've had with them, a lot of them were like, hey, I wish I could, but when I send it to get approved, it doesn't get
Yeah.
approved. And I talk openly about it now because I'm like, they can message me if they feel like it. It is okay. Because show me something different then. Because I could give you proof and say, hey, we've tried here and this didn't get approved. And this is something that we said 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there are also companies that do it for the optics, right? And want to support marginalized communities, which of course absolutely do that. But you should be supporting everybody at the company. Make sure everybody feels like they have opportunity and they feel heard and supported. I do think you look at what's happening with DEI, especially in the States, and a lot of things are being rolled back. And because most of that was done for the optics, not necessarily for the investment. So I could see them saying,
we said that earlier, right? Attention and intention. Same thing with investment and just for it to look good. We just want it to look good, and that's what most people do. But they see, we're also feeding into that because once we try something and it looked good and nobody showed up, we're not invested into it. So we could just say, well, we did that. It's just a mandated checklist thing. Check, 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 check.
No, I think that makes sense. I think you definitely have opportunity in 26, hopefully. To make
Of course.
sure that
you know what? Listen, I would say one thing. Because of the person that I am, there's going to be opportunity. Because what I've also learned to being on this journey is that if you don't see an opportunity, you create one, right? And sometimes my opportunities may be smaller. So I've had, I have one happening soon, a women's only workshop, right? Where I spill the beans on what we talked about. Because some men are saying stuff but not saying stuff. So I'm like, hey, ladies, if you really want to support your men and find out what's really going on, let's have this conversation. We've had like 3 or 4 parts already. And because I realized when we did workshops, mostly women showed up. And women are the backbone of a lot of things that we do. You know what I mean? That's the support system. Those are the people, like, I always tell people, once you see a narrative that says men versus women, and you are okay with that, you've lost. Right? And regardless of what it is they're feeding you, you have a choice to say, you know what, that doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
And that's where these conversations come. That's why this is a conversation we have and that comes up, because we're saying, well, how can I support men? And then on one side, men are saying, nobody cares about me. I said, well, they just had a podcast on how to support you. What do you mean nobody cares about you? So it's something where the things that have never been done can be done, but you have to see it as something that needs to be done.
Definitely. And I will segue a little bit into, because of course we're talking about men's issues, but there are probably men being like, of course he could say that. Look at him. He's a fitness guy. He's, probably got money and women and cars and all kinds of things. Of course he could say that. I'm stuck. I do like that you sometimes put out like a vulnerability post of days you're not necessarily doing well or not necessarily at your best. So I do think it's good for men to see like, hey, I don't have it all together either. Yeah. I'm a work in progress too.
Well, we buy cars because we see other people buy cars. We buy clothes because we see other people wear clothes. We buy jewelry because we think it looks good, right? Somebody else had to wear it for us to see. We don't just walk down the street and buy our jewelry, unless you're like on Flatbush or something. But what made me really invest time and consistency in this is the fact that if I saw somebody who I thought, hey, they have it okay, or they look like they're doing well in certain things, or I've seen them have success, I would want to follow that. But what happens is that most people who follow those things, they follow highlight reels. They only follow things when things are great. And the reason why I put out a lot of different things is because the things that made me successful were the failures. So it's like, how do I give you a blueprint if I'm only giving you one part of the solution? Like, this is, all right, just get here. How? Like, how will we do this? How do we get to that point? And this is where your environment plays a huge part, because the people who mentor me, they didn't have to give me information. They didn't have to say to me, hey, this is what you need to do because I did this, or I didn't do this and this didn't work. And that's why I try to give back so much, because I want people to understand, like, I don't have it all together. I'm not the most successful person in some people's eyes, as well as I might be the most successful person somebody knows. And that's all relative. It's all based on what you think it is. Success for me could be having a house up on a mountain where I just have running water and I'm good. That could be success. No noise, no distractions. And somebody will be like, what? But again, it's relative. So, but I put out stuff because I want people to understand that you have to have the wins with the losses. You have to have the success with the failures. You have to have ups, downs, dark, light. Like you have to have, everything has an opposite. And when we keep feeding people just highlight reels, we're giving them a false impression of what it is, right? And then you have men who are relying on the information that they see to be successful, to be the provider, to be the protector, to be the performer. And when they don't get the right information, they can't be none of those things, which is tied to their value. Mm-hmm. Well, value, aka by society, aka by communities, right? So when you do that, how is it helping them? But if you make men understand, hey, you need to sometimes talk about what's going on because you can't fix it. Because if you could fix it, you wouldn't be there.
Right.
And it's the same thing I've done with health and wellness for such a long time. I never tell people to just go on it by yourself. Your greatest basketball player had a coach. Your greatest boxer had a coach. Best track athlete, I'll give him a little plug, Atto Bolden, as a runner from Trinidad and Tobago, had a coach, right? Mm-hmm. Soccer players, they look at Messi and Ronaldo. They have coaches. How are you supposed to just figure everything out without a coach or without some type of direction? Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense. If you want to be an elite athlete, because you see, the days that you don't feel like performing, who calls you?
Right. Right.
So yeah, but it's one of those things where you have to invest time because we have conditioned men for so long that now you're trying to recondition some ways, and it doesn't happen overnight. And I'll say this too. You have all the controversial parts. Anyway, I'll say this too. The reason why women's movements, without calling any names, have been so successful is because they have already been conditioned to be that way. All they've done is they have expanded on that. They have compounded on that. They have elevated that conditioning. Whereas we, as men, have not elevated our conditioning because our conditioning is what's keeping us back. We've kept ourselves back now because thinking that, okay, in 1905, I was the only one with a job, so I need to perform regardless because she can't work, she can't drive, she can't work. I need to perform, I need to have the bills, I need to provide, I need to protect. Well, we're not in 1905 anymore. And how are we expanding on that? So now we should be expanding on the fact that, hey, I know how to provide, I know how to protect, I know how to perform. How do I get the best out of that? How do I now collaborate with other people so now we could all be successful? How do I create a brotherhood just based on my experience as this person? But we're not doing that. And we've been conditioned not to speak on things that bother us. All we do is grunt and buff our chest. So imagine if I have been conditioned this way and things are getting worse. Do I get better? Can't. Right. Because now there's more for me to complain about, if I could, you could say that. Or there's more for me to feel a certain type of way about. But I'm already conditioned not to speak on when I feel weak, or when I feel vulnerable, or when I feel like somebody has done something wrong to me, unless I lash out at them. There's no way to effectively communicate. So now that it's more, what am I going to revert to? Mm-hmm. The one thing that I know how to do, which is not say anything.
Which doesn't help anyone.
It doesn't help anyone. It doesn't. And it's that's what we have to start making known more often so people understand. You're not helping anybody. And again, we're not saying that you won't go through things, but you have to find a way to be able to explain how you go through. And again, like I said earlier, they don't care about our men. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're 100% correct. Maybe those people that you have in your circle, they don't care about you. So what you gonna do? You gonna say that?
Yeah, that part. What do you do with it now? Now what?
You're already fully aware. You're 100% aware that, you know what? They don't care about how I feel. They don't care about how I look, because I tell men the same thing. I'm not saying that you need to be ripped and be on the cover of some magazine, but I'm saying take better care of your health. Mm-hmm. Right? If you are with somebody or in a group of men and women or both, and they're not telling you, hey, what's going on? Like, I think we need to take better care of our health, or let's go do something, or let's start the gym. Now, yes, it's your personal choice, but it's also a choice to know who you keep around you. You want those people to say, hey, what's going on? Like, what happened? I know you've been depressed lately. Come with me to the gym tomorrow. Or come, let's go do a class. What kind of class you like to do? You want to do a yoga class? Because nothing's wrong with a yoga class. Nothing's wrong with taking a walk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I do think, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I was at an event recently where they were talking about nutritional, physical, and mental health and how that all plays a part. And there are so many, we've had this talk offline, so many men who, I'm going through something, I'm gonna go drink a beer, I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna sleep or do something that's not really physically healthy for me. And somehow that's how I'm going to cope with my mental health issue. So I want to touch on a little bit of the relationship between physical health and mental health. I think movement and just taking care of yourself is really important as well.
Yes. And before we touch on the physical health part of it, we'll also touch on the cultural part of it, which is if something's up, the quickest invitation. Okay, so the quickest invitation I'd get if I was going through a rough time, well, let's go grab a drink. And the issue is when we say, well, this is how my dad used to cope with it, we're using the wrong words. And this is where a lot of these conversations come up where it gets a little bit intense for me. Because we're saying, well, as Caribbean men, that's how we know how to cope. No, that's how we know how to avoid. Because we're avoiding the problems. Because when you go to the bar, you're not going to have one drink. You're drinking to the point where they have to like take you out to the club or take you out to the bar. So are you coping with it or are you avoiding it? Because tomorrow it's going to be right there. And this is why when we talk culturally, I get into a lot of different conversations. Let's just say that.
Arguments.
Conversations. Because I'm listening. I'm not arguing. So I'm listening to what they have to say as well. I want to hear the perspective. But I bring up the conversation of, is our culture killing us? Because if you think that that's coping, and it's not, it's really avoiding. And if that's the only coping mechanism you have, then we're doomed, if you think about it like that, if you want to really get specific, right? And if you're and now we could tie it into health. If you're somebody that actually is more health focused or really care about your health and wellness, and I'm not saying fitness because everything fitness is in the gym, just health and wellness. If you care more about your health and wellness, right, you would not see that as a coping mechanism. You see where I'm going? Like, that wouldn't be your one coping mechanism. Or you may go have a drink because you're looking at the socialize with your friends. You might have a drink or two, and then that's it. Because, tomorrow you got to get up early or you got to go do something. The fitness part of it is the gym. But the health and wellness part of it, I have to take a walk. I have to go on the savannah. I have to take a run. I have to go get something to eat. Or, hey, I can't get up too late tomorrow because normally I have to get a certain amount of time to rest. But that's health conscious. So what you're finding is that Caribbean men, mainly, we tend to say that's not as important because how we've learned to cope with is socializing at a bar. Or everything and this is something that I guarantee you somebody is not going to like. Everything that you see Caribbean-wise is either somebody laughing, smiling, jumping, or grabbing something to drink. Men and women. So, we might get any sponsorship for some alcohol, whatever. So what you find now is that if we keep seeing it all the time, and if we saw our dads do it, and we saw our uncles do it, and we saw grandpa do it, then it's okay. Then it's fine to go do that because I saw them do that. Now again, you have choices because there's a story about this guy whose dad was an alcoholic and he used to beat him. There was two brothers, and one brother turned out the same way. The other brother didn't drink, and he took care of his family in a different type of way. And they asked him, "How come you didn't turn out like your dad?" He said, "I had a choice."
Yeah.
So health and wellness is a choice, right? You also need a support system for health and wellness because there are going to be days that you don't feel like it. If you have an accountability partner, it helps. If you have somebody that's also into fitness, if it's a relationship, I keep telling people the same thing. If we keep putting ourselves in places where we don't align with people and wonder why we don't get a result that we want.
Preach.
Right? So that's one of the main things. And then when you look at the Caribbean culture, you look at how easily it is to judge a man who is fit, how easily it is to judge a man who takes care of his health and wellness, how easy it is for a man that gets up early and goes to work out, right? Who doesn't go out and drink as much on a Friday night. He might drink a little bit, and there I out to know. But you don't tell him that's what happened, boy. So you pressure these people to now be like you or them, and he's under pressure, right? So he's like, oh, let me stay a little bit longer. Now, what people don't understand is that once you fall into a routine, it's easy to fall out of a routine. So 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, he stays out. That's less sleep, which means the next day he gets up. He's not going to do the things he would normally do. And all of that based on what? Right? And then your support group is not helping you because they're not saying, you know what, well, let's wrap up early, because tomorrow I was thinking we should go get a run. Right? And again, we're not going to the extreme with stuff. We're just saying that these small changes or these small ways of looking at stuff, it changes the whole dynamic. Because if you even think about health and wellness, let's think about health and wellness from a success standpoint, right? We talk about men. Men love to be successful, right? It's like a thing. Every man wants to be the success story, right? Okay, cool. When we look at success, what do we think? Cars, homes, travel, everybody's in first class all of a sudden. Okay, great. But when you think about the people who are truly wealthy, they run, they hike, right? They do trails, they have a bike, they have like a bicycle that they go riding more with their helmet and their things in case they fall. They invest money into their health, knowing fully well that is where the success comes from. But not just that. Being healthier is the foundation for your success because your mind works better, your body works better, you're more productive, you see things better, you engage with a different type of people that also want to win.
Yeah.
But we don't teach that. We don't talk about those things. All we talk about is 3 Lamborghinis, a Ferrari, travel first class, Dubai trips. Like this is what we feed ourselves in the Caribbean, and it just looks so easy to attain. So when they try to attain it or when they work so hard to get it, all the other parts of their life they miss out on, and they don't understand that these are all building blocks of success. Health and wellness is a building block. Education, a building block. Continuous education, continual education is a building block, right? The right environment, a supportive tribe, reading a book. But your same support system that you have, that you say is a support system, are the same ones that are pulling you away from the success that you want.
Yeah, because what they see is more normal. This is, we hang out. Plus, if you're doing it with me, then I'm not doing something wrong. This is just how we hang out, how we commiserate.
It's how we do.
And so it's not, I have a drinking problem.
We all have a drinking problem.
That's just how we hang out. We just go drink a beer, 2 beers, 6 beers, 10 beers.
That's what Caribbean people do. I remember having a conversation in a youth thing. We talked about like prison reform and stuff. And I said it there. I said, if I hear one more person tell me in Trinidad and Tobago that that's just how it is here, I will lose it. I will go off my rails. Because, so you're saying that's just how it is here? So you're good.
You have no other options.
You're okay with how things are. No problem. All right. So then when the newspaper comes up with the headline that you don't like, do not complain. Don't. Right? When you have people marching for different things, don't say anything. Just watch it. Just be like, all right, cool, clap for them. I don't know what you want to do, but don't complain. Because remember, that's just how it is here.
I can't even tell you how much that annoys me. Anybody who knows me knows that.
I'm telling you, man.
Because you've given up your choice. If you're just like, that's just how it is. There's nothing I can do.
Do you realize the theme?
Yes. Yeah.
You realize the theme, right? You realize how it's connected, right? And the one thing that I think we've fed us as Caribbean men for so long is that some of us don't have a choice. And all of us have a choice. That's what we have to talk about, right? You have to take massive action. You have to shift the mindset a little bit. You have to maybe remove yourself from the environment that you're in because it's not good. You want to plant a big tree in clay soil, and then you're like, well, why is the tree not growing? Well, you're in clay soil. Like, and these things may seem simple, and it may seem funny to how we address it, and maybe this will get their attention. But it's the basis of everything that we do. Where if we think this is just how it is, then we will not be willing to make changes. If we think we have no other choice, then no choice will be made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what we hold on to, right? And I'll tell you how you know the difference with Caribbean and elsewhere, right? When you're in the Caribbean, there's a way that we do stuff. When you're at work, there's a way that you do stuff. Friday come in, so half day Friday you're done. You're looking to wrap up early because Friday come in, and fellas going by the bar, they're doing this, they're doing that. Take that same person, and again, another controversial take, but take that same individual, put him in another country. The last thing on his mind is to go to the bar on a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Because he has now become his environment. He might have it at home, right? But now the whole dynamic of his, even, and I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, anybody listening, I'm not saying that we don't work hard, right? Because, we have this saying, work hard, play hard. Okay, I get that. But I'm saying that we do have a choice to either stick to something long-term or not. Because once we uproot ourselves and we go somewhere else, we fit in there very, very well. And we are very successful. Most of the successful people that you see out in different parts of the world are Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
And if you talk to most employers or most people, most times their Caribbean worker is the hardest worker ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm telling you, once you go past surface level, the solutions are somewhere in between. They're just waiting to be found.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, one thing that we definitely have to touch on real quick, because I can see it in the comments already. Well, what about women? Yeah, I want to talk about my feelings. Women don't want to hear me talk about my feelings. Women don't want to hear me, be weak and vulnerable. Women don't like that. Women don't like this. This is why I wanted to center the conversation around like men and brotherhood and building your own systems and networks, because it's women's role to handle this for us. This is why the New York mayor-elect had said it's not women's job to solve the male loneliness crisis. Because there are a lot of men who are like, well, what about the women? How come women aren't stepping up and helping us with this?
Well, we could go back to what I said to you about the woman that you're around right now. If they're not helping you out and that's what you're looking for, you're in the wrong environment. That's one. The second part, which is something that most people don't touch on, is that in today's world, men feel as though women are looking for a high value man.
Oh, that term.
Right?
I mean, we had to get there, but
we had to touch it. We had to touch it. Now, what we're going to do with it is we're going to now flip it on its head. If you are saying that women are looking for high value man, and we look at what a man's value comes from, it comes from protect, provide, perform. You may fall into the category of what women are looking for, high value men. But that's also a smaller percentage of men, right? And then you also have to think about, how do you as a man, how do you think about yourself? Do you think of yourself coming from a place of value? Or do you think of yourself coming from a place of worth? Worth is bigger than value.
Right.
But if everybody's saying, women are saying, I want a high value man, she's right, because she's going to get those type of men, high value. Because then the value comes with how he could provide, protect, perform, which is just money. Most of the time it's just transactional, right? But a man who has a high worth, he's not looking for those women.
Exactly.
Because he's worth more. Right? So once men keep thinking like I have to be a high value man, they're feeding into the conversation. Now, if he says I have to be worth more, you eliminated all those girls. Because they're not looking for you and you're not looking for them. And then when you think about, oh, well, the women who are not supporting their men, I will tell you from research, from being on the ground, there are a lot of women that are willing to help support their men. And it doesn't help that the men are not showing up for the support. So I never come on and talk just mainly to women and say, well, women this and women that, or talk to the men by themselves. No, I always tell them, I said, if we can work together with women, then what's our point? Then what are we doing? We feed into the narrative of men versus women. It's not supposed to be that. And that's why even like when I talked about the Dear Men Project stuff, I always say, and those who love them, because you're part of a family unit, you're part of work, you're part of an organization, you're part of a community. So unless your community is only men, then that's who you have to decide to rely on. Mm-hmm. But the men who are complaining about not having to support from women, I want to ask those men, have you shown up when the support was given? And what is the most important part is that when they gave the support, now this is where the conversation with women has gotten more detailed now. When you talk to women, I always let women know, you can't show up how you want to show up for him. You have to show up how he needs you to show up for him. It's our responsibility as men to say, hey, I need you to show up in this way because this is what I respond to. So the whole silence thing, suffering in silence thing, it's part of our responsibility to not suffer in silence and to talk about stuff. Now, again, it's not something that men can do overnight. Mm-hmm. So we have to have consistent conversations. We have to tell the women, because they've been also conditioned how to show up for these men for so long. Just as men have been conditioned to say, I don't need much. Just give me these 3 things and I'm good enough.
Oh my goodness. It's like you've talked to all the men. It's all they ever say. I just need this, and that.
But they say those things because we normally say what we mean. Mm-hmm. Good and bad. So when you find somebody that says exactly what he needs and we don't give it to him, he then creates stuff, extra stuff. Because now he thinks that's what you want. You're thinking that's what you want. Oh, so I said to you, I need X, Y, Z, and you decided, well, that's not good enough. Okay, cool. Well, now I need A, B, C, D, E, and still X, Y, Z, with the hope that I could get something. Mm-hmm. You understand? So this is why when we talk so much about women supporting men and men supporting women, it's kind of tricky because women support women all the time. I mean, for the most part. I know some that don't. Right? And then you have men not really supporting men, but why we want them to support us when we have to start with our brotherhood. We have to start within our groups of those type of people. Now, remember we talked about this earlier. Most men don't have friends. So they're looking for support from the female. And I had to tell somebody this the other day. I said, she's not your friend. Mm-hmm. Because you're the same one that comes back and says to me, you know, when I say certain things to her, she uses it against me. How is that your friend?
Right.
Why you keep telling her stuff if you know she's going to use it against you? So maybe you need to find some friends, like some good friends. Yeah. So this is why I said it cannot be something that happens overnight, but the conversations have to be consistent because everybody's going to look at it differently. The people who listen to this right now will say, I agree with what he said here, but I don't agree with what he said here. I agree with what she said here, but I didn't like how she said this. And listen, I've been so open to different perspectives. I think it's great because you know why? It helps me to understand, oh, you know, I didn't think about that. You know, that didn't cross my mind. So that's one of the reasons why I do the 4 women only workshop. Because I told the guys, I said, you're going to get upset with me. I said, but when I did workshops for you guys, some of you guys didn't show up. Mm-hmm. Right? I said, and you are the same one that complaining that women don't care about you. But I have women messaging me saying, hey, when are you going to do a workshop to help us understand how to support these men, young men and our men?
Yeah.
So once they asking me to do it, I'm going to do it because it helps our men. Mm-hmm. So it's like you're saying, this is weird, but it's like you're saying, Feed me, but you keep your mouth closed. Right? I'm hungry. Feed me, but you keep your mouth closed. I'm starving. Please feed me, but you keep your mouth closed. Right?
Makes sense. Yeah. Because you do hear it a lot with, we need more support, we need more this, we need more that. And
It is
I'm
true.
here for it.
But it's true. It is true. It is true. It is true that men feel like people, generally, not even just women, generally, animals, kids, birds, whatever, they feel as though nobody cares about them. And they are correct. Based on their environments, they are 100% correct. The people that they have around them, if they cared, you will not hear that man saying, nobody cares about me.
Yeah.
Right? I could count on one hand 5 people that I would reach out to that I know if they don't take my call, they will call me back. Because they're like, yo, G, what up? And I talk to people who travel all the time, people who are different time zones from me, like maybe 5 people. And I'm the one championing men advocacy. You understand?
Yeah.
So imagine the man who is not as outgoing. Imagine the man who just really just sees his head down, work, and nobody to say, bro, hey, take a breather. Like, let's go do something more.
Yeah.
There's none of those things. But if it's on the woman's side, she's like, hey, listen, I know your boss pissed you off yesterday, so Saturday we're going to the spa. And guess what she just did? She just reset her whole week. And then Monday she comes in, she's like, you know, me, I need to worry about that because Saturday I want to take care of my nails.
Exactly. Yeah.
You understand? So this is why I say it's not that they're wrong. They are 100% correct. And this is why I came back to the choice. Who are the people you choose to be around? Nobody that's around you is stuck to you. Not a person.
True.
Not even your relationship is stuck to you. I'm not saying break up. I'm just saying not even your relationship is stuck next to you. So you have a choice who you have around you to give you what you need.
Yeah.
And vice versa, that you're capable of giving them what they need. But everybody keeps complaining. But that's not true. That's not true. It's the people that you have in your environment that are showing you that they don't care about you. The people that you consider to be friends, because we love to call people friends, and that's a mistake. We call too many people friends. Who's the last person that called you on your phone to check up on you? Who's the last person that called and said, hey, I was just doing something and you ran across my mind?
Yeah.
You good? How you feeling today? Now, initially, based on how you ask the question, you're going to get, I good on a brother. All right, cool. Just checking on you. Comes off the phone and feels better. Wow, somebody thought about me today. Listen, it could be a very lonely place for men.
Yeah.
And it is for a lot of men. I just want to help men understand that they have a choice to choose their environment. They have a choice to want to become better and find a support system to help them to become better. And I want to help men understand that don't be confused by this new narrative of being of value when you should be concerned about being of worth. Don't be confused by the whole value conversation when your conversation should be worth. What am I worth? Not what am I valued? Because that's a temporary thing. You understand?
Yeah.
People don't build legacies off of value.
Exactly. Like you
they
said,
build
that's
legacies of worth. That's transactional. They build legacies of worth.
Hopefully they hear you. You can lead them to water. I don't know.
Hey, listen, I heard this thing from somebody, a friend of mine from Belize. He said, you know that conversation about you can take a horse to the water, but you can't make it drink? We say, that's not true. And I said, what do you mean? He said, if you put salt under their tongue, they'll have the drink because they'll be dehydrated. I just said what I hear. I didn't make that up. I just said what I hear.
I'm not trying to poison the horse.
Salt not with poison. Sodium, you need sodium. I'm just saying that we have to stop.
You have to make them thirst for the water.
That's like saying that's how it is. Right? That's like saying that's how it is. But I can bring it to you, but I can't make it. Okay, well, how valuable is the information?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said to you,
Yes.
men are very logical. They will say, "How valuable is it to me?"
Mm-hmm.
Right? And this is a whole different conversation. But that's why they pursue until they get it because it
Mm-hmm.
was valuable. But was it worth it? I'm just joking. Oh my god.
Oh, now somebody's in their feelings.
Yeah, like this bald guy with the beard. Yeah. I'm gonna unfollow him on Instagram.
No, don't unfollow him. Don't unfollow him because what you're saying is really necessary. It's really helpful. It's really impactful. And I really do hope that men continue to try and find that kind of support and that brotherhood and really support each other and show up for each other because you know how you each communicate. Whereas women, we're working from a whole different mindset. So I think it's probably more important that men know how to talk to each other and build those bonds.
Yeah, I think it helps. It helps a lot because it helps to release mentally the things
Yes.
that you've been thinking about, and not just that too. When you talk to other men, you tend to find that a lot of men could relate,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one of the things that helps because then when it comes, it's simple but it's effective. If you find somebody that could relate to you, good or bad, you feel better about your decision.
True. Yeah.
See, I said good or bad. If you
Good
have a
or
bad,
bad. Yes.
if
Because
you have a guy, if you have a bad friend, you're like, yeah, me too, bro. Like, forget that. If you had a good friend now, he could be like, yeah, you know what? Hey, I went through that same thing.
hmm
And then you say, oh, well, it's not just me alone. Because every man walks around here feeling like he's the only one.
Yeah.
Because remember, he's been taught how to compete, and you compete in by yourself.
hmm
So
Yeah.
it's all connected. You must feel alone because you're taught to be alone to be successful. You're taught to compete one on one because that's how you show dominance. Like things like we talk about the alpha and the pack and all that kind of stuff. The alpha is not the top dog in the pack. They don't understand that. They don't understand that the alpha is not the top dog. And whoever's listening here, I want you all to research if the alpha is the top dog and then message me on Instagram, find me on social media. I want you to learn what I learned years ago. The alpha in a pack is not the top
Mhm.
dog.
And not always male either.
Find out who the top dog is and message me. That's your homework.
That's their homework. Well, I'm going to put all of your information in the description so they'll be able to find you and to follow you. Is there anything coming up? Obviously, this is being released in January that you want people to know about, to look out for from your platforms.
There's always things coming up. I want to do a for women's only live event. Hopefully that thing comes out within the first quarter of the year. Um, I want to continue to create workshops, but I also want to be able to collaborate with people to do programs. So that's not just a one-off thing or just
Let's
an
do it.
online thing. Um, and I think the main thing for me is just to get more men to just understand, like just kind of get a perspective. Again, they don't have to agree, right? But they have to know that there's another perspective on it. Like there's another perspective on it. So I think the main one for me would be to try to see who I could collaborate with to maybe create some more programs. Because our men need it and our young men definitely need it. The stats show that it's 8-2 in terms of workshops created for girls versus boys.
Wow.
Although boys are at a higher rate of dropping out of school before they really complete the program.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd throw a stat in there so people could feel like they're just talking foolishness.
No, hopefully they're understanding that this is a real issue and they really need to pay more attention to it.
Yeah, but I
Well,
appreciate you as well. So thank you
yes,
very much.
of course.
Appreciate you. I know sometimes I could go off all over the place sometimes. However, I thought that this was a good opportunity, and I love the fact that you're doing it. And like I said to you earlier, we do need women to also show support because it's not a men versus women.
Mm-mm.
Right? So I'm really happy that you are doing this, and I look forward to see what else is coming up.
Brilliant. I love it. Well, folks, make sure you are following the BK Rant and Rave podcast at BK Rant and Rave. I will put Garth's information in the description. Make sure you follow him and look out for upcoming projects. In the meantime, enjoy a blessed Soca weekend.